everybody. Welcome to Camel Call Friday. We got a lot to talk about coming up on the show. We will talk softball with the new head softball coach, and we will talk scheduling, different things going on. We record this a day early. I'll let you behind the curtain here, so make sure you check to see when the games and when the matches are going on. We'll tell you what we know coming up. But what we do know is this. In High Point, women's soccer, possibly last ever trip to Bowie's Creek for a while, definitely last trip as a Big South team. The Campbell women's soccer team completed an undefeated September by pounding the Panthers. It was 4-0 at halftime, and that's what the final score was.
I mean, think of the shot totals. 14-1. We were walking over from Sand Volleyball to watch the soccer match, and it was that video board was lighting up every 5 minutes. Bayoto in the 11th minute, Liston in the 19th, Richards in the 25th. So the game's over 25 minutes in. Great crowd with the men's soccer team and other athletes there in attendance. Good atmosphere. The orange smoke is a nice touch. I like that pregame. And then when you're scoring 4 goals a half, it's your dad was operating the scoreboard at an all-time rate. He was just pressing that button, putting the score on there. They looked really good.
Wow, Evan Budrovich just throwing the whole curtain up. We have to explain some things. Some very confused listeners right now. Number one, walking over from Sand Volleyball. We do not have a Sand Volleyball team, but those that know Evan, those that don't, he is pretty much in every intramural event that there is, and he and former friend of the Campbell Call and Tales from the Creek podcast, Preston Dodson, are former two-sport athlete and now director of financial aid, was your partner for Sand Volleyball.
Great team. Heather Ireland, the compliance director, is our coach. So we have our team. Anyway, but nice result for the Sand Volleyball team. We're 5-0.
Yes, okay.
And then for the soccer team that ran the whole month without a loss.
Yeah, there's a plug. Also talking about, and again, he got the job without any help from me, but Jerry Haymeyer, my father, is the scoreboard operator at both women's and men's soccer. Not the video board, but the timing and score of the scoreboard. He loves it. He has to be told sometime to stop cheering in the press box, but my mom and dad retired to this area, and my dad is the scoreboard operator. All right, on to Campbell sports. As, my goodness, the hurricane, of course, we think of, so many student athletes have friends and family in Florida. All reports that we've heard is all the friends and family are fine. We know many are not fine and without a home. And of course, as it comes up, we're going to get, thankfully, more rain than the terrible wind damage and the storm surge and that. But it has put some things on its ear. As we are taping this now, mid Thursday afternoon, we do know that Campbell football has been changed. It will be a noon start. In addition to the noon start for Campbell football, that means volleyball, which will play at its regular time, 6 o'clock on Friday night. They'll be playing 4 o'clock on Saturday. They are still making a decision about what time men's soccer will play. That decision will be made Friday at 5 to see when it will play on Saturday.
And that'll depend on rain and
no doubt.
How much comes on the field, no doubt.
Yep, definitely. But let's get back to the women's soccer and just a sensational run. Not only have they been winning, and again, they did not lose in September, and they only tied once. So they've been winning. They have let by just 3 goals in the months of September. This very good team is getting even better under head coach Jeff Gross.
Well, Jeff Gross, he was Mr. Fanboy last night on Wednesday night, running into the stands, hyping everybody up, wearing his golf hat, getting energized. He's high-fiving all the teammates. Like, that infectious energy is what this group needed. I always think about this when you lose in a championship to an opponent, that level of focus and intensity when you play them next. They say every game's the same. It wasn't. Those girls were more intense, more passionate. The fans were on every touch for High Point, yelling and heckling. Like, there was a reason they wanted to play that game. If they bring that intensity every night, they'll be fantastic.
Yeah, and for those that don't know, it has been Campbell and High Point in the finals of the Big South Conference Tournament in women's soccer the past 2 years. Campbell 2 years ago won it at High Point, and vice versa happened last year. So just sensational. And you hope, I say, okay, High Point's not going to play. And look, other teams in the Big South, we understand if they might be sore for a little while. It happens to their conference. We're going to the CAA. They're staying here. It would be awesome to see high point rivalries, especially in those sports that have been so competitive, like your soccer's, if it stays there. Well, what a non-conference game that would be at the end of August to play High Point every year.
You're trying to speak this into existence, but I think
I really
Gardner-Webb, High Point, Asheville, all these opponents that are in the state, very easy non-conference matchups.
Oh, it would be so much fun. You know, we're always talking about how hard it is, and it is. We know behind the curtain again that these coaches try to get a lot of opponents to come to Bowie's Creek. If you get these former conference opponents you have a relationship with, you have a rivalry with, boy, that would be some good fodder to fill up the non-conference schedule.
We could call the new student section that's being named this week.
That's true. You can vote online. Go Camels.
Yep, but you could call it the Big South rivalry section, where they just pick on the other Big South schools. Because it'll take a minute to learn these new CAA rivalries.
No doubt, no doubt. A lot of rivalry. Speaking of Big South, last year in the Big South, boy, volleyball remembered the fact that they're a dominant power in the Big South last weekend, going on the road, shutting out Gardner-Webb, winning a 5-setter at Charleston Southern. And now some home cooking. Friday at 6, they'll take on Presbyterian. And Saturday at 4, they'll take on Winthrop. They're 2-0 in the conference.
Did you see Melody Page's stat line?
Unbelievable.
Hits over 700 in 2 matches. Big South Player of the Week. Clearly should be.
If you don't know volleyball, that's as good as it sounds. As good as it sounds. It's sensational.
As a middle blocker, national average, best hitters in the country hit 450. That's the best in the country during the season. So she's nearly doubled that in 1 week. 19 kills in the 5-set win. I mean, Ryan Mason, the assistant coach, said Charleston Southern, that's a trap game. And they won it. They avoided the trap. They got out of the Pirates' nest with a win. Or I guess it's the Buccaneer Dome, not the Pirates' nest.
Yeah,
but
the Buck Dome.
The Buck Dome. You get the point. So they're 2-0.
It's not a dome. It's a very, very small gym. It's a very, very small
Don't be
gym.
fooled by the name.
Nothing against our good friends down at Charleston Southern. It is far from a dome.
So they start 2-0 in the conference. They welcome Winthrop, whose coach is now the athletic director, Chuck Ray, so an interim head coach there. And Presbyterian, that's always played Campbell tough. They actually played Campbell in the last hurricane on this campus. Remember, I had to film footage of a 3-setter. The 3rd set played in the rec gym because the main gym lost the transformers of power. So they went to the practice courts to finish out the match.
Wow, I forgot about that.
This year, I hope that's not the case, but just some perspective of the last hurricane.
Yeah. Gore Arena, by the way, one of the places on campus that has a generator that will still have power in case stuff happens. Student Union, though, is that place, well, a little bit more comfortable place to spread out.
If you do live on campus, just one note, that is the area we want students to go to.
That's
if
right.
Power goes out, if there's flooding issues, go to the Union. They'll be fully stocked.
Because they do have that generator and everything will be going.
Exactly.
Men's soccer, as we talked about, to be determined when and if they will play on Saturday as Winthrop comes to town. And then they'll go back out on the road, getting a tie down at USC Upstate. But again, coming off what was a win against a top 15th ranked team, they'll be fine as they round into form. And our cross-country team, as we're taping this right now, getting ready to run down at the coast as they had things from this weekend mixed around as well.
Yeah, let's see how that unfolds, especially by the coast with rain. But I hope they run. You just never know.
Yep, you never know. So, as we look ahead to football, again rescheduled from 6 to noon, you know, I hope like everybody else that this is a game that the rain stays away so the crowd can come to see. So it's a even playing field because this is going to be a really good game. NC Central is undefeated. This is their best record since it became a Division I program back in 2007. Not only that, but they beat by 2 touchdowns NC-A&T to begin the season. NC-A&T, Campbell picked to finish 1-2 in the Big South Conference, and they shellacked by 3 scores a New Hampshire team. If you don't know, they're in the CAA for football only, and they're a top 25 ranked team. They went up there and beat the heck out of them. This is a team receiving votes in the FCS polls. This is a good team coming to Bowie's Creek from Durham.
Central is healthy. They're playing their best football. Their quarterback, Pee-wee Davius Richard, is fantastic. He's a dual threat, runs out of the pocket, can make plays in the pocket. He's Haj Malik Williams, but thicker, right? So he's very strong, very physical.
The nickname's Pee-wee, but he's 6'3", and he's got some girth on him and can run almost as fast as Haj.
Clearly the staff's witty with that nickname. Like they understand how to make fun of him, but this team runs on a quarterback. And the same way Haj leads our offense, right? He's elusive against ECU on those touchdown drives, really good at scrambling and dumping the ball off. This game, if it's not pouring rain like that Chicago Bear 49er game this year, will be high scoring and highly entertaining.
It'll be interesting to see, even if it is pouring rain. Remember, Campbell came into this year bragging about the fact that they had what they called the stable of backs. They truly feel that they have 6 guys that can run the ball. We've really only seen a couple of them. Nicorey Rogers is a true freshman that has stepped up the depth chart. They got a couple of different guys that can run, so they feel that they're pretty well equipped if this does turn out to be a game that is going on during a tropical storm.
We meet with the coaches each week to preview these games, and the Campbell coaching staff said, we need our offensive line to lean on people and dominate to win this game. So whether it's wet, windy, or 75 and sunny, as Justin Hare says, that'll be a good perk. If this O-line that's really big, really physical can dominate, they should do well.
And this really sets up a final tune-up and a very good tune-up for a Campbell 3-game run at home that's going to tell a whole lot about the season. Look, there's only 5 games that you play in the Big South. You have Charleston Southern coming in next Saturday for homecoming, 4 o'clock. It's a Charleston Southern
Remember
team.
The parade at noon?
The parade at noon. Well, next week, you just wait for our homecoming episode. Me and Evan just ticking off all of the events that are going on.
It's from sunrise to sunset.
And folks, it's awesome this year because we are at sometimes the beck and call of what the schedule is, but the schedule just has to happen that if there's a fall sport going on, it's going on. If there's a scrimmage going on, it's going on. So Friday and Saturday next week are going to be fantastic. I'm sure Evan will tell you all about it at Campbell EDU on all the socials. But this is a Charleston Southern team that you felt like you've been better than the past couple of years. You haven't been able to be. Robert Morris comes in, a team picked to finish around the bottom of the conference on October 15th. Finally back home. 3 home games. NC Central would be a big statement win, and then 2 games in the Big South Conference you have to have if you want to win the Big South Conference. It's a huge 3 weeks coming up.
Well, the last time Campbell was at home, they looked dominant. They absolutely ran Citadel off the field,
yep.
a traditional opponent. If they can do well these next 3 weeks, one, it sets them up for league play. You start 2-0. And then secondly, you have a winning record. You're playing confident in October. We've noted Campbell's record in November and October is not great. So you can change that with 2 wins to start October, and you get a great crowd this week. You get an amazing crowd for homecoming. And then fall break, there'll still be people around to watch them play, maybe go 2-0 in the conference. So it's right in front of them. There really are no excuses.
It's a very the team has high expectations, and every team says it has high expectations. But one of the things I've noticed that could state to this is a different Campbell football team is the fact that these guys, after William and Mary, on the road against a top 25 ranked team, a game that you are an underdog in. At ECU, an FBS team, pretty good this year, a game that you are a huge underdog in. After both those games, there were no moral victories, and there were a lot of things you could pick out that would be moral victories. And there were guys from the top to the bottom that were really upset, visibly upset, days later upset, because they believed and they thought that they should win both those games.
That's important because there have been losing streaks in the past, right? And these teams have fallen into victim of their own failures. This team has not worried about, well, we lost a game. Woe is me. It's let's get back to work. Let's get to business. We're healthier than ever with the bye week.
Yep.
We feel rejuvenated and focused. And the way this Big South schedule plays out, it's kind of fascinating. Charleston and Robert Morris, those are games on paper you have a chance to win and should do well. At Jackson State, you'll see what happens.
A top 10 team that Deion Sanders coaches,
Shedeur Sanders is a 5-star All-American.
That'll be fun in the middle of the year.
But then the back third of the schedule, maybe the 3 quote-unquote toughest teams. A&T has looked really good against NC Central a few weeks back. Bryant took FIU to overtime and should have won the game.
And that's on the road in Rhode Island.
And then the Barbecue Bowl, Gardner-Webb is slinging the football around at 400 yards a game passing. So the last 3 weeks are entertaining for the playoffs. The next 3 weeks are entertaining to watch good Campbell football.
I'm going to take it one game at a time.
Nope.
And
don't be a coach.
And
don't be a coach.
And you know who else is? Trena Prater. She is impressive. Wait till you hear her interview. She has been a head coach before at the mid-major level. She was a star at LSU. She's been a Power 5 assistant, and you can tell when we talk to her. We're talking softball when we come back after the break. This is Camel Call Friday.
Hi, Campbell fans. I'm Christy Yarbrough with RE/MAX United. Thinking about buying or selling or know someone who is? Let me help you make the right moves. It's important to work with the right agent with local knowledge and cutting-edge experience. I can help ease the pains of the buying or selling process by guiding you through the steps. Whether it's connecting you with the right lender, home inspector, handyman for those undone projects, staging and prepping your home for sale, or helping you find the ideal home that fits your family's needs. Visit my website for more information at christy.remaxagent.com. Go Camels!
They say a camel never gets lost in the desert. It always knows where to find something to eat and drink. With this in mind, join other Fighting Camel fans at the Kicking Camel Grill for exciting game day parties. Help cheer our team on to victory while watching the games on one of 10 televisions. Try some of the Camel's mouth-watering buffalo wings, a 12-taco platter, or North Carolina's own bright leaf hot dogs. The Kicking Camel Grill, your oasis for great food and beverage. Welcome back to Camel Call Friday. Joining me now, already in the midst of her fall practice season, she is in her first year with the Campbell Fighting Camels, is head softball coach Trena Prater. And Coach, first off, you have been here now for a couple of months. I know you really got thrown into it, had to hit the ground running. What have these months been like for you and your staff?
It's been busy. Obviously, coming in July, kind of the peak of our recruiting season in the summertime. Trying to see the recruits that were verbally committed, try to still chase some other recruits, and then hire a coaching staff, which were kind of my top priorities, as well as trying to get to know the current players that were on the roster. But things have settled down in August. Our director of ops finally got here, and she was able to take off some of the workload of other things, and then now it's all things softball. So it's been fun. The kids have been fun. We were looking to play this weekend, but the hurricane changed those plans, so we'll be looking to open up next week at NC State for our first fall game.
Fall practice is important no matter if you've been at a school for 25 years, but I can imagine being here at the beginning, is it a lot of evaluation in addition to practice?
Yeah, and it's teaching different philosophies, and maybe some of the things are similar to the previous staffs and some aren't. So just trying to really, we've been offensively focused a lot this fall, and changing the style. Coach Hill is a great offensive mind, and so getting them to kind of buy into what she's teaching, it's taking time, and they're getting it. And we're starting to see the fruits of our labor and the process. It's been good. It's been fun to watch them grow, and then defensively as well, trying to increase the intensity, the passion, the focus on a daily basis. But the girls have been phenomenal on day-to-day, and they're growing together, so it's been fun to coach.
Coach, tell me about this coaching staff. Amazing what you've put together and who you have thrown a net out and got to come into to Buies Creek. Could you brag on them a little bit for me?
Oh, absolutely. Coach Aravalo, one of the next up-and-coming pitching coach phenoms, been to the World Series twice as a player, coached under Patty Gasso over at University of Oklahoma, and got to be under Jen Rocha, who is probably one of the top pitching coaches in the country. So to have her and her knowledge here in Buies Creek is, a blessing, and the knowledge that she's going to give our pitchers and the way that she's going to be able to attack the hitters in conference, I'm excited to see. But she's definitely was a great catch for me to be able to get. And then we have Coach Megan Hill, who came to us from Kennesaw State, who's just a good young mind. On all things defense, offense. She was a strength and conditioning coach for her first 5 years of her career after college. So she specializes in our conditioning program this year, trying to help out our strength coach. So, those two. And then I have a director of ops with Avery Guy, who came from Iowa. She's a former player of mine, who's all things operations and is a very organized and strategic planner as well. And then kind of our last person was Joy Milkowski, who's our player development coach, who's pretty much the saving grace of all things outside of the lines with the players. And she's definitely something we need, especially in the time that we're in with mental health and different things, but just developing their mindset, kind of being that sports psychology, bringing that peace to them on a daily basis.
Well, that's really interesting and great that you say that. I mean, you know as well as I do, 20 years ago, the director of player development was just a fancy name for an elevated volunteer assistant. But she is truly doing what her title says, and that's a great change, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. She's all things, like I said, from mental health to support, emotional support, to how do we strategize, we're making goals, do our goals align with your capabilities? Is your vision too big for what you're willing to do, right? You're setting these goals, are you willing to put in the work? Do you really know what it takes to be an All-American, to be able to hit 15 home runs? So she kind of breaks it down for them to see the big picture of things as well, and on a daily basis kind of evaluates them on practice on how they react to different things, how they're receiving information from the coaching staff, and helps them understand how to kind of bounce back from different adversities that they might face as well.
And gosh, I would think that it is something that, as you know, is needed in all level of sports and everywhere. But, you know, baseball, softball, you fail 2 out of 3 times and you're still doing pretty good. So the mental aspect of the game, as you know, is maybe even more of a part of it than it is other sports.
100%. In this game, you fail 7 out of 10 times and you're still considered a good player, right? Twice as much as you succeed. And that's a hard concept to kind of learn to accept, especially as a freshman coming in. And she's really helped with some of the transition of competing in different positions and things like that as well.
Coach, I know the one of the first times we met, and I asked you, I said, hey, where were you before Iowa? Of course, the headline was you coming to us from an unbelievable program in the Power 5, in the Big Ten. And then about 5 minutes later, I got to the end of your resume, and you're a young woman. So if you could, to tell everybody kind of where you've been and how your softball journey is done, because I think it even more rounds out the fact that we got a special one here in Buies Creek.
Yeah, I've definitely been blessed in my career. Played at LSU and then straight out of college went to coach at George Washington University. My mother's twin sister passed away, and I went home for a couple years to be with her, and then I got back into it. Ended up at the University of Maryland for 2 years. Went to Mississippi Valley State for 2 years, and I became a head coach at 30 years old at Hampton University. I was there for 3 years and led them to their first regional appearance. And then from there, University of Buffalo called. I was there for 4 years, won a MAC regular season championship there. Then took a quality of life pivot down to University of Central Florida in Orlando. Was there for a year. Was under Renee Gillespie, who had been there, started that program. She was there for 18 years. I thought she was never leaving. And then 11 months later, she got the call to Iowa and then asked me to go with her. I was at Iowa for 3 years as an assistant. My last year, I was the associate head coach there. And then Campbell called, and here I am.
What do you love about being a head coach?
Coaching in general for me is the impact on the girls. I had a phenomenal experience my 4 years at LSU, and then I stayed a fifth and was a student coach, and I had 2 different coaching staffs. I played for Glenn Moore, who's the head coach at Baylor University now, and Yvette Girard, who's a Hall of Famer from LSU and Louisiana Lafayette. So what they gave me as a player is what kind of inspired me to go into coaching, because I was originally a computer science major, and I switched over to kinesiology when I got the itch to coach. So for me, it's about the passion, the impact, and to create those positive experiences that I had as a student athlete.
As a student athlete at LSU, now I know some of our listeners that are plugged into the Pac-12 might try to argue or whatever, but SEC softball is a different beast. It is softball, it is Power 5 softball, but boy, it is in a class by itself. Describe playing in that atmosphere at such a great university at LSU.
I loved it because I'm a person who feeds off of the fans. Like, I'm a passionate player, high energy, I like all of the things that the Power 5 brings from, the student athlete experience and the fans. But there's no days off. And I think that's what made us great, because being in the SEC, like any series is just like a regional or a super regional, if you will, because one game could change the game. And back when I played, I'm back in 98 to 01 or 02. It was just LSU, Alabama were the powerhouses back then. It was just us two competing in the SEC, and everybody else has kind of rise to the occasion. But it was fun. It was a fun environment. Everything in Baton Rouge, like there's tailgating for softball games, and it's not just for football. So the fan experience that the environment that they create for the student athletes made it what it was.
Tell me about your philosophy as far as what are we going to see from your student athletes on the diamond when we finally get to see them in the spring?
Yeah, well, they're a competitive team. They know how to win. Coach McDonald did a phenomenal job of building this program over the last 4 years that she was here. So you're still going to see them compete. They're winners. They know how to win. They've been battle tested. You're going to see them be passionate. They're going to play hard. They're going to compete. And they're going to play Campbell softball. It's not that we're coming in to change anything. We're coming in to build on what the other coaching staff, the foundation that they've laid, 2 consecutive Big South championships. Our goal is to leave the Big South on top, kind of how we came in. So that's kind of our philosophy. We're going to play with passion. We're going to play with purpose. And when obstacles come our way, we're going to persevere.
As the head coach of Hampton and also up a little bit of a level in the MAC at Buffalo, you know what it takes to recruit and win at this level. So what does it take to recruit and win at this level?
Yeah, you got to be persistent. We're going to hear a lot of no's, because being in the Power 5 for that long, like my eye is for talent, right? I'm going to make them tell us no, and we're going to get kids that fit our program. We're going to get kids that want the small environment in the classroom. They want the, student-teacher relationship. They're going to embody, competitive mindset and want to be a part of a family. Bowie's Creek is a special place. It's not for everybody, but the people who choose it are going to have great experiences here.
Coach, and finally, tell me about your family life and in the very limited free time you have. How is that spent with your family?
Oh, yeah. I have a 3-year-old son. His name is Deuce Joel Prater. And then my husband, Joe, is also here with me. Joe is a 21-year Navy vet, and he's here. We live up in Fuquay, Varina, and I've, in the last 2 months, haven't had much free time, so there's not much that I get to do. But my son spends a lot of time around the team and at, different sporting events and things with me. And we've enjoyed our time so far. North Carolina has been good to us.
Deuce, tell me about that name. That is
Deuce,
awesome.
Yeah, Deuce is my little guy. So I actually had a miscarriage in 2015 with my first child, and so I just kind of in honor of that one, I gave Deuce, he's the second, so gave him that name. He was going to be Joel Deuce, and then my dad and my husband were like, no, let's just call him Deuce. Deuce Joel sounds better than Joel Deuce, so we went with Deuce, and it's definitely fitting for his personality.
And you said 3 years old now?
Yes, sir. He's 3.5. He'll be 4 April 3rd.
Okay. So, and again, this is the personal part of the podcast that I'll put in there because I've got the microphone right now. As you know, we've talked about my rapidly growing family. Speaking of Deuce, I've got 2 twins. They're 13 months old. So between 1 and 3, what do I need to know? What do I need to do to survive? I'm writing this down.
It's on-the-job training every day, every kid, and you got twice as much of the fun, so I could just say good luck. And it's funny, like, I always, like, pray, like, I want twins, and I'm just thankful I didn't have twins, because it's a lot, as you probably know.
Times two. We always joke that we don't know any better because these are our first and second, and so that's the reason why we're surviving right now. We don't know any better.
It's fun, though. It's fun, and they bring you joy every day and give you energy, so...
It has been a treat. Coach, thank you for the visit, and thank you for being here.
Yep, thank you for having me.
That'll do it. Thank you. That'll do it. She already knows it. That'll do it for a Camel Call Friday. We will be back Monday with the live show from the county seat, and next Friday right here. It's Camel Call Friday. Thanks for listening.